Kubumbana insimbi yesithupha insuku kedine enyangeni yesihlanu lungelele inyanga yenkhwekhweti. It's a very good morning, and siyanamukela ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show nalomuhla ekseni. It's going to be an exciting show as per usual. We have a jam-packed show. I think we have about 3 guests namuhla. Kanti ke njengoba batayele babukele emakhaya batayele kuba nema-guests lamabili kuphela. Lomuhla we have a diverse range of ama-guests latawukhuluma ngema-topic lahlukahlukene. So hopefully nitawufunza lokunenge ehlelweni lalomuhla. A very good morning.
Yes, correct. Good morning, Sriso.
Pardon my manners. Pardon my manners.
Good morning, I'm well. Good morning to the viewers as well. Thank you so much for waking up with us. On a Thursday, sikhulumisana nemcondzisi wemkhankaso i-1 billion rising umcondzisi walapha Eswatini Xolani Hlwatsha. Kulamalanga ke bebavakashela imimango lehlukahlukene kwanzisa lwati nje ngetindzaba tehlukubeteka i-GBV against women. Siyakhumbuka ukuthi umkhankaso i-1 billion rising umkhankaso lo global lwasungulwa ngo-Eve Ensler kucetha i-rape and sexual violence against women. Umkhankaso kulona lwasungulwa ngeminyaka wa 2012 as part of the Valentine's Day movement. The billion refers to the UN statistic that 1 in 3 women will be raped or beaten in their lifetime, or about 1 billion. I-1 billion rising announced a theme yeminyaka wa 2023 yale campaign as a rise for freedom and to create the new culture. Umkhankaso ke uhlale umemetela ema-themes njalo ngeminyaka njengoba nje ngeminyaka wa 2016 i-theme yakhona beyithi rise for revolution. Sizobe sikhulumisana naye Xolani Hlwatsha at 6 lomhla ekseni. Kuva nje ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe kulelo vakasho lwabo lokuvakashela imimango yini lebakufunzile isevents amaswati ngabe vele mhlambe sikhala singanani ngokuthi badinga to letindzaba leti tehlukubeteka.
Looking forward to that conversation Nongelele. Ngabe ngilalele njengabo bonke abantu abasemakhaya kuba ukuthi Xolani usiphathele ini. Tatsuke uMagabanca insimbi yesikhombisa sikhulumisane na communications and marketing manager wakaRinac Bathabile Nkambule kulandzela ke ukuthi Eswatini Air launched successfully its first 2 phases of planned scheduled operations. Phase 1 wabo looking at flights between Eswatini and Johannesburg labam launch on the 26th of March 2023. Ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwakunabo Oskido nabo DJ Zindlela sababona bagibele tindiza tethu lapha kaNgwane for the first time, and it was a very beautiful launch. Kanti ke phase 2 wabo between Eswatini and Harare was launched on the 14th of April 2023 balibhekisa khona eHarare Zimbabwe tindvuna tembuso netinsatheli tetakaNgwane satibona ukuthi litfola lithuba lekugibela leyo ndiza leyalibhekisa khona eHarare yaphindze yabuya that day. Bathabile joins me to talk about their route launch program lechubeka kusasa ngalesihlanu labatabe khona balauncha phase 3. Tawuke nga 7:45 noma ke nga 7:45 we will talk to Dr. Kusile lochamuka at the clinic group. Last week Lulu spoke to Dr. Maforo ngama foreign bodies in children. Kanti the week before that bekakhulume nge-asthma in children with Dr. Newton. Lomuhla we talked to Dr. Kusile about abdominal pain with Dr. Kusile ekutheni imibuto nje longaba nayo mayelana ne-abdominal pain, what it is, its common causes, and the diagnosis nalokunye nje longafisa kukwati ngema-abdominal pains nema causes. I will discuss that from 7:45 kuteke kubumbane insimbi yesiphohlongo sesifike emaphethelweni elihlelo kwanyalo. Stay with us, we'll go for a night break nasibuya sibuke tindzaba talapha ekhaya.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break, and we'll give you more of Miss V. pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who pays for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money Pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Phela imizuzu lesikhombisa ibumbene insimbi yesithupha lomhla ekseni ake sibuke indzaba lapha ekhaya. Silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sesimemete emabutho ukuthi aphelele esigodlweni elisithini mhla tisikhombisa enyangeni lesetulu. Simemetelo sikhishwe ngumfalo Gina asingathwe indvuna ngekuthunywa ingwenyama.
Eswana alila ndzaba benkosini. Eswana uthongandaba emabutho akaphelele lapha esigodlweni elisithini mhla tisikhombisa enyangeni lesetulu. Ujuba ngenkomanzi kaHoho, ujuba ngeluthaka eMpumalanga, ujuba ngeluthaka eShiselweni, ujuba ngeluthaka eNtshonalanga. Nanga ke lamabutho inganyeti, inyatsi, umgadlela, bokhololo. Usho njalo ke Mswati lomnyama kulabaluthuli ulodungandaba wasemambondweni sipha abantu ke Mswati siyephutha kuqiba Mswati ke khawula abantu nangemvimbeko uyakubona inhloko emaduna nembalati yakunga ukunga wasekunga tabonyokwane kaZulu luhoho lufunga ngilabe emuka ko wayethe wena phakathi
Liphini landvuna nkhulu Themba Masuku selisukumise ngalokusemthethweni luhlaka lelibuke kulwa nekuguquguquka kwesimo selitulu i-National Determined Contribution Implementation Plan. Masuku ubhekakatsi yamelelwe indvuna yelitiko letekuvakasha nemvelo Moses Vilakati lochazile ukuthi lakuleli litawudzinga imali lengu-1.3 billion US dollars kushicilela loluhlaka kusuka kulomnyaka kute kube ngumnyaka wa 2030.
Liphini landvuna nkulu Themba Masuku kulomcimbi wekusukunyiswa kwe-National Determined Contribution Implementation Plan belikatsi limelelwe indvuna yelitiko letekuvakasha kanye nemvelo Moses Vilakati.
Ukuguquka kwesimo selitulu kubukwe njengento lebaluleke kakhulu nakukhulunywa ngetekuthuthukisa umnotho welive. Futhi live kaNgwane liyatibophela ekuthatheni tinyathelo letiphuthumako letingasetshenziswa eminyakeni lemitsi kute kuncishiswe kuba sengotini kwemaswati.
Indvuna yetemafa Neil Rickenback yethemba ukuthi tisebenti tingamashumi leticeceshwe kuleli hlelo titawusita kutsi emaphakelo lakuleli atsinze tindzaba tekuguquguquka kwesimo selitulu.
The climate dimension in tracking budgets and expenditure will be a very helpful development mechanism to ensure that climate-sensitive activities are recognized within the budget framework.
Indvuna yelitiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentutfuko Dr. Tambo Gini bekatsi imelelwe ngumabhalane lomkhulu kuleli tiko Kusile Mlangeni.
We are grateful that the NDC partnership has also confirmed support for the country to prepare a joint NDC and National Development Plan investment plan, and this will be ready by the end of this year. This will ensure that development is climate proof. I call on all stakeholders, including our development partners, to use this investment plan as a blueprint for funding and prioritizing future projects once it is finalized.
lobukela ihhovisi lakamhlaba kuleli George Chwachira ubonga lakuleli ngesinyathelo lelisethe konga imvelo losabambe kuba ngilobukela ihhovisi lenhlangano yaka-United Nations Development Program UNDP kuleli Rose Sebantindira uthi inhlangano yakamhlaba UNDP Climate Promise Fund ifake imali lengu-8.6 million emalangeni kulesikhwama sesi-National Determined Contribution Implementation Plan etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla inavuma inkosi inzinisa sisembabane.
Indvuna yelitiko letemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana manqoba Khumalo ithi live ngaphansi kwesivumelwano sekutsengiselana semave elivekati le-Afrika, i-African Continental Free Trade Agreement, litawugcila kakhulu emkhicitweni wetekulima nesikhumba kuleminye. Indvuna beyikhuluma ngesikhatsi lelitiko lihlanganise tindlu totimbili tephalamende kudzingidza luhlaka lwalesivumelwano.
Litiko letemabhizinisi ngekubanjiswa inhlangano yakamhlaba lebuke tindzaba tekutfutfukisa umnotfo elivekatini le-Afrika, i-United Nations Economic Commission on Africa, UNECA, selibambe umhlangano netindlu totimbili tephalamende kwakha luhlaka lokusebenta lwesivumelwano sekutsengiselana lokude tinchabekelwano semave elivekati le-Afrika, i-African Continental Free Trade Agreement lapha evene. Indvuna lelitiko Mancoba Khumalo ivete tinhlangotsi letitawubukwa live ngaphansi kwalesivumelwano.
Kucala agriculture lefaka ekhatsi agro-processing lefaka ekhatsi nema-fruits nema-vegetables. Sitawubuka ke ne-beef, sibuke ke ne-leather ngoba kuyahambisana, sibuke bo-textile nalokunye ke lesikhanze ukuthi silivela kangwane mhlambe sisengaka-participate kuko kepha singaqala sikubuke.
Lobuke inhlangano yaka-UNECA kulesifundza saka-SADC Eunice Kwamwendo udumise live ngaloluhlaka.
The success of the strategy will largely depend on whether we have the targeted stakeholders ready to take full advantage of the AfCFTA.
Lisekela lamengameli wendlu yetimphunga, Imphunga Ndumiso Mdluli uthi iphalamende imcoka ekucinisekiseni ukuthi live lizuza ngalokuphelele kulesivumelwano.
The members of parliament and senators are responsible for legislation, but are also well versed in issues of trade because they engage in cross-border trade in various capacities and are business owners. Therefore, there is a lot that can be gained from engaging the senators and members of parliament on the strategy.
Lesivumelwano umgomo waso kukhulisa tekutsengiselane kuhlanyela timali kuleli vekati le-Afrika. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Samkelisuye Khoza Namusi Mkhonta na Giani Msibi Esulwini.
Indvuna yelitiko letisebenti kanye nenhlalakahle yato uPhila Buthelezi seyisukumise ngalokusemtsetfweni libandla le-Labour Advisory Board. Indvuna Buthelezi ithi leli bandla lisebente ngekutikhandla futhi linqutfulise kulabo lelibamelele lingatithatseli tinqumo.
Ngekusho kwendvuna yelitiko letisebenti kanye nenhlalakahle yato uPhila Buthelezi leli bandla le-Labour Advisory Board litawuba sehhovisi iminyaka lemithatfu njengaloku lingene ehhovisi ngenyanga yaBhimbidvwane kulo mnyaka losetulu.
Insaya kini bekunene live lisemahlombeni etindzabeni tekuhlalisana kwabo baqashi netisebenti ekutheni kube ngiloku health nginikeleni ibambele steering bekunene silitiko sethembenini sethemba nje uSinkulunkulu utawuba nani nisawuqhuba lo msebenzi. Nasikhuluma ngetisebenti sikhuluma nge-driving force in any business activity or in any economy. Lekufuna basebenzi nabo baqashi banakekeleke ngendlela lengiyo.
Sihlalo welibandla le-Labour Advisory Board inkomishana wetisebenti etiko letisebenti kanye nenhlalakahle yato Mthunzi Shabangu.
Sabuka lokuthi lama alternate members angasebenta kulokuba ngilama members ale steering committee to drive implementation of the work country program sharing kuze ukuthi emalunga onke le board uba wabusisela mhla angathi khanzi agcina mzuku wa commissioner aze ayophinze futhi awukhanze ukuthi kuhlala kwawo kutaba once in a year sharing because the substantive member maybe is always available sharing.
Leli bandla lakhiwe ngilabamelele letisebenti baqashi kanye nahulumende etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla ngisesandla.
Indvuna yelitiko letemidlalo emasiko netindzaba tebantfu labasha Harris Bulunga seyisukumisela ibandla lebantfu labasha labataweluleka lelitiko etindzabeni tentfutfuko yebantfu labasha lelingephansi kwenhlangano yemave alabamhlophe kuleli i-European Union. Lonxusele lenhlangano lapha eveni Desislava Shumelova usi leli bandla litawusita kutfutfukisa tinhlelo tebantfu labasha kuleli.
Leli bandla lihlanganise bantfu labasha labalishumi-nesihlanu labachamuka kuto tonkhe tifundza telive. Indvuna yelitiko letemidlalo emasiko netindzaba tebantfu labasha Harris Bulunga iphakamisa leli bandla itsi leli bandla lingumgogodlo ekuphumelela kwehlaka lentfutfuko yebantfu labasha i-National Youth Policy.
This is in line with the aspiration of the Eswatini National Youth Policy of 2020, which is a comprehensive framework that aims to create an empowered generation of young Eswatini for Vision 22 and beyond. With over 70% of the total population in Eswatini being under the age of 35 years, the Eswatini National Youth Policy demonstrates the commitment of His Majesty's government to the development, the well-being and empowerment of our youth.
Lonxusele inhlangano yemava labamhlophe kuleli Desislava Shumelova naye uvete bumcoka baleli bandla kufezeni emagola lenhlangano labuke kutfutfukisa bantfu labasha.
You should not have a vested interest, apart from the interest of supporting our work and the action of the European Union in the country to make sure that all young people in the country benefit.
Leli bandla tawenda lo msebenzi wekululeka eminyaka lemithatfu. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza nginaGiyani MCB ezulwini.
Lutsango lwakangwane selincome kutsi bantfu labakhubatekile ngelilanga lekuvota bavote ngendlela lekhetsekile pheceleti special voting kute nabo babe yingcenye kwakha live. Lelitsango belikhuluma ngesikhatsi letfula tincomo ngemtsetfo lochijelwe wetelikhetfo i-Electoral Amendment Bill ekomitini lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemtsetfo endlini yabayisikhulu.
Likomiti lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemtsetfo nemtsetfosisekelo endlini yabayisikhulu selicale umsebenzi wekukweleka imibono ngemitsetfo lemibili yetelikhetfo lokunguloyo we-Electoral Amendment Bill kanye ne-Voters Registration Amendment Bill kanti yomibili yeminyaka wa-2023. Lutsango lwakangwane kanye nenhlangosi lelibuke tindzaba temndeni netebulili ehhovisini leliphini laNdvunankhulu betfule tincomo tabo ngale mitsetfo lemibili kuleli komiti.
Sikhulumile ukuthi kufuna ukuthi ngabe kunebantu ababasitako njengalo ungaboni nje emehlweni ukhona lo mthonsa uma sebaya lapha eboxini liningi labo ukhanza ukuthi abakhona ukuta and sekulikhuni ku-presiding officer ukuthi ngakhona kuyomkhethela lapha eboxini ngoba ngiko sigcine saphuma nesolution lethi abangene ka-special voting kube naleli bhokisi ngalelo langa bete nalolo lotanabo angathi ke ukuthi kutabe bathike njani ngoba labanye kababoni.
Siphindze sachubeka kusahluko section 13 lapho khona ibill beyiproposa deleting the subsection 2 and 3 and replacing them with a new subsection lebese iyafundzeka lapha ngaphansi. Nakhona lapho i-team ibuke ivete nje kwekuthi mhlawumbe how often will the voters register be checked? Tawuhluleka emva kwesikhathi lesingakanani singathi check mhlambe singathi i-verification ithangize nje kwaba kube ngumbuto nje ukuthi ingabe info letawukwendeka emva kwesikhathi lesingakanani.
Mdlalo waleli komiti lophindza belunga lephalamende lenkundla sekwaluseni Sibusiso Dlamini wamukelele tincomo.
Thine nje we want to assure Lutsango ukuthi itawusebenta ibe ne-direction le-clear. Njengoba nisho nje ukuthi kukhona tinto leti bese umuntu uti-interpreta ngalenye indlela. So setenda lo mthetho wethu ube nemjeje.
Leli komiti kubheke ukuthi lichubeke nokuthatha imibono yalabathintekako ngale mitsetfo lemibili ngalesine. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza nginaMuzi Mkhonta ePhalamende.
Losabambe kuba ngumabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemabhizinisi Cebile Nhlabathi ukhutsata abosomabhizinisi labancane nalabasemkhatsini kutsi babambe ematfuba lakhona kutekutsengiselana elivekatini lase-Afrika njengoba tekutsengiselana tivulekile kumave ase-Afrika. Nhlabathi bekakhuluma eRoyal Villas ngalesithathu nakavula ngalokusemthethweni umhlangano wakaKhomesa.
Injongo yalo mhlangano kuvunulisana nekushelana ligwayi
ngamathuba emakethe lakhona eAfrika lakangasebenziswa bosomabhizinisi labancane nalabasemkhatsini ekuthengiseni basathengisa umkhicito wabo ngaphandle. Lo sabambe kuba ngumabhalane omkhulu eTekweleti emabhizinisi Cebile Nhlabazi usite uyethemba ukuthi bosomabhizinisi batalisebenzisa lelithuba balalelisise.
Njengaloku liveke la sayini noma lingilomnye baku-African Union siyasayina ke tivumelwano letisenda noma letisigunyata-ke ukuthi sake kucalwa lo msebenzi ukuthi sitawukhona nekuthola imithelela yokuba kule-African Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Umphathi wenhlangano yabosomabhizinisi kuleli ibhizinisi Eswatini nathi Dlamini uthi akuthi kuqala ukuthengiselana kukhanza bosomabhizinisi balungele.
Sibathathele isikhathi bede la kuto equipha bosomabhizinisi balapha ekhaya kuthi hey nayi phela iAfrica yavuleka nyalo itane ama opportunities kepha phela itane elinye tingoti sicela ke bayatela lapha nje batosijimisa ukuthi sicale ukujima kuthi nakasevele icala na i-free trade area se-Africa ukhanza ukuthi bosomabhizinisi bethu seba equipped.
Hopewell Musundire lochamuka kaCommerce Business Council uthi bahlose ukufundzisa ngekuvala umkhasi lovalela tekuthengiselana emkhatsini wemave kungako ke banalo namhlangano.
What we are trying to achieve is to break barriers of small to medium enterprises so that they are able to export their products to the region and also participate in global value chains.
Uthi ke batawushiyelana lwati nangekusebenzisa tibuchwephesha basathengisa imkhicito yabo. Lo mhlangano ke utawuthatha emalanga lama-3 khona ke hotela le-Royal Villas. Lobekako ngoGiyane Msibing se-Royal Villas eZulwini.
Litiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla latisa sive kutsi intsengo ya diesel kanye na paraffin itawehla nga 40 cents ilitha kusukela mhla tisihlanu kulesetulu. Intsengo ya petrol yona ngeke itsinzeke kanike diesel sotawuba ngu-21 emalangeni 60 cents ilitha. Paraffin yena utawubita 15 emalangeni 75 cents ilitha bese kutsi petrol achubeka abite 20 emalangeni 80 cents ilitha. Kasike kulo chamuka enkantolo umbiko lijaji lenkantolo lenkulu Justice Doris Langwenya limthole anelicala lekubulala Sibusiso Nelisa Hlatshwako lebekasolakala kutsi wabulala loyo lebekatse angumshushisi Stanley Dlamini mhlati nge-25 enyangeni yamabasa ngeminyaka wa 2018. Umbuso kulelicala nalitekwa wetfula abofakazi labasikhombisa kanike umsolwa yena waba namunye fakazi waphindze watikhulumela yena enkantolo. Enkantolo umsolwa waveta kutsi washaya umufi ngelitshe ngoba abetivikela njengoba umufi abemhlasela. Umbuso kulelicala lomelelwe ngumacebo Nxumalo uvetile enkantolo kutsi incwadzi yadokotela lekahlolo sitfumbu semufi iveta ngalokusobala kutsi umufi walimala enhloko kwephuka timbambo takhe kwatsinzeka nesibinzi kanye nenhlitiyo kuletinye tifo takhe temtimba letalimala nakashaywa esijubeni salo. Lijaji lichazile kutsi umbuso ukhonile kuveta enkantolo kutsi indlela lalimala ngayo umufi ikhomba ngalokusobala kutsi washaywa kamadima. Lijaji litsi ifakazi wemsolwa kanye naye umsolwa balichaza ngetindlela letehlukene lelitshe lekashaya ngalo umufi lokwenta kutsi babonakale kwangathi bakhuluma ngematshe lehlukene. Lijaji litsi ngemuva kwekulalela bonke ubufakazi lobetfulwe enkantolo liyakholelwa ukuthi umbuso ukhonile kuveta ngalokungangabateki kutsi umsolwa vele wambulala umufi. Lijaji litsi uma ngabe umsolwa bekativikela kumufi kepha-ke bekede sizatfu sekusebenzisa lamandla lawasebenzisa ikakhulukati ngoba umufi abedlile ngalobo busuku. Lijaji libese limlahla ngelicala lekubulala umsolwa kanike sekusele manje kutsi lijaji limemetele kutsi ingabe Hlatshwako utawudvonsa iminyaka lemingakhi ekhulukutfu. Embikweni lochamuka enyuvesi iUNESWA baphathi benyuvesi yaseSwatini babe nemhlangano namu etolo ngalesithathu mhla titinthathu kuyo inkhwekhweti lapho bebahlangene nenyonyane yeti-70 tayo inyuvesi lapho kuvunyelenwe kutsi inyuvesi iyavulwa. ema-IDE classes ayachubeka nekufundza ngemgcibelo wamhla ka-6 May. Tifundvo talabafundza full-time kuwo onke emagatsha enyuvesithi yacala ngemsombuluko wamhla ka-8 May 2023. Isemester yetifundvo tema-undergraduate itawuchutjwa kute ivale sikhatsi semaviki lalishumi ekufundzisa. Kantsi-ke bafundzi batawatiswa kutsi luhlolo lutawuba nini. I-first semester kulabenta i-PGS itawuchutjwa kute ivale sikhala seliviki linye kute kuphelele kufundza nakhona batawatiswa bafundzi kutsi luhlolo lutawuba nini. Kubhalisela i-first semester kutawuchubelwa embili ngemaviki lamatsatfu kute kube ngolesihlanu wamhla ka-26 May 2023 solo kubhaliswa. Bafundzi labahlala khona enyuvesi bangabuya kucale ngelisonto mhla ka-7 May. Lo mbiko uchamuka kumabhalane wenyuvesi Dr. Salebona Simelane. Isikhathi nyalo sitawubuka tindzaba tetemidlalo. Kutemidlalo. Licembu le-Green Mamba lelihleti esicongweni sendzebe ye-MTN Premier League selishiya licembu le-Young Buffaloes ngeliphuzu linye ngemuva kwekutsi i-Green Mamba ikhale phansi kuyo i-Buffaloes ngeligoli linye ecandzeni emdlalweni lodlalelwe enkhundleni ye-King Sobhuza II Memorial edolobheni yenhlangano. I-Green Mamba seyinemaphuzu lang-55 emdlalweni lengu-24 ledlaliwe, kantsi-ke i-Buffaloes seyinemaphuzu lang-54 kuphela.
Kuchubeka umdlalo omunye we-MTN Premier League emkhatsini we-Green Mamba lehlete esicongweni kanye ne-Young Buffaloes lehlete endzaweni yesibili kanzi lo mdlalo bowusophindwa kulandzela loyo longaphelanga ngempelasonto lesisuka kuyo kulandzela litulu lelana ngemandla yemhlume. Lamacembu lamabili atholana etulu enkundleni ye-King Sobhuza Memorial Second epho khona esigabeni sekucala siphele kulicanza ngala nangale. Esigabeni sesibili Young Buffaloes ikhombe kuba namandla egcine litfolile lelishayo nguSandile Saviola Gametse kwaba ngilona ligoli elicedza umdlalo njengoba uphele Young Buffaloes ihamba embili ngeligoli linye ecandzeni. Kutfola amaphuzu lamathathu sekusho ukuthi Green Mamba nyalo ishiya Young Buffaloes ngeliphuzu linye. I-Green Mamba inemaphuzu lang-55 kanzi inemidlalo lemibili lesele itawudlala ne-Royal Leopard iphindze idlale ne-Denver Sundowns. I-Young Buffaloes lehlete endzaweni yesibili inemaphuzu lang-54 kanzi yona isele nemidlalo yemadlenya kanye nethabankulu Kellis leseyivele idliwe inkemba. Impabano Swallows isendzaweni yesithathu yona inemaphuzu lang-51. Lobikile umsakati Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini na Fabrice Msonera eKing Sobhuza II Memorial Stadium enhlangano.
28 minutes after 6 sibahlola imarket ngesimo selitulu uma sibuya lungelele sits down with Xolani Hlatshwako longu director we 1 billion rising.
TV license quickly and easily with MTN Momo. Simply dial *007 *3# and select option 8 for TV license. Enter your national ID number as your reference and the amount you wish to pay. Then enter your PIN to confirm your payment. Once your payment has been made, you'll receive a confirmation SMS of your payment. If you're a first-time payer, you get another SMS for your TV license. So legalize your entertainment from the comfort of your home. Pay your TV license the easy and convenient way with MTN Momo.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nayo lothandza kusivulela on the show. Kusile breakfast show besividele ukuthi sitabe sikhulumisana nomcondzisi wemkhankaso i-1 billion rising. Sitakhulumela ukuthi ke kulamalanga sola bavakashela imimango lehlukene kwanzisa lwati ngekuhlubeteka i-GBV against women. Umkhankaso ke 1 billion rising umkhankaso lo global lowasungulwa ngu-Eve Ensler uceza yona i-rape and also i-sexual violence against women. Umkhankaso welona lowasungulwa ngeminyaka wa 2012 as part of the Valentine's Day movement. Sesivele sinaye lapha acola nihlashako kodwa sichazela kabanti ngawo lo msebenzi labawendako nje wokufinyelela esiveni semaswati ngabafundisa ngako ukuhlubeteka nokuthi ngabe ngutiphi indlela labangadenda kuzama ukutivikela kona ukuhlubeteka. I-1 billion rising ke announced the 2023 theme and campaign ibitwa ngokuthi rise for freedom and to create the new culture. Umkhankaso ke uhlale umemetela nje i-theme njalo ngeminyaka kanti ke ngeminyaka wa 2016 i-theme yayithi rise for revolution. Asivusele ecela nisabe ngokuthi ube nasilomhla ekseni kathi sakugcina ngiyadla ukuthi vele nendawo umsebenzi lobalekile eveni kume nje kusiniketele leso sithombe lokho ukuthi ingabe vele mhlawumbe umkhankaso i-1 billion rising sathi lokuthi vele i-global utholakala emaveni lamaningi cishe wonke emhlabeni but sifuna ukuva nje i-role yayo la ekhaya Eswatini ukuthi ingabe vele mhlawumbe senisebenze kanganani ngato leti indzaba leti GBV against women.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngelela ngiyabonga nekuthi ungimeme ngibe khona namhla ehlelweni lengakusho nje kumbukele ekhaya ukuthi ukusebenza i-1 billion rising solo yaqala eveni la Kangwane ngeminyaka wa 2012 ngingasho ukuthi kunengi lesikwendile lokuletha lishintsho emangweni nakuma individuals nalokho into esiqiniseko sekuthi kusebenza kwethu akusiko nje kuphela ukuthi mhlawumbe ngaFebruary bese sesiyavela siyasebenza siphinde sabuka ukuthi asicale indlela letikhonsako ngoba nasikubuka indzaba yekuhlukubetana noma yekuhlukubetwa kwabomake noma kwanoma ngimuphi umuntu lokona eveni kujulile dinentintho lokhanze ukuthi timbangela yekuthi loyo muntu athi khanze ahlukubeteka. So singumkhankaso ke sibe sesicala letigungu letikhona emangweni lapho khona senta siqiniseke ukuthi bantu emangweni abakujwayele ukucocisana bantu emangweni abakujwayele ukuthi kube ngibo labachamuka netisombululo ngoba egcineni konke donke letinkinga letisiphethe eveni nalokucinzeteleka nalokuhlukubeteka lokukhona ngithi leli singaba netisombululo. So umkhankaso ke ngisho ukuthi solo uqalile ube khona nyalo tigungu lesicalile emangweni sesinetigungu leting30 sibonge kakhulu nje kuchaswa i-MTN Foundation naletinye inhlangano letende ukuthi sichubeke sibe nato letigungu emangweni. Lokumcoka kakhulu umkhankaso lengakuveta lungelelo lokubukile ukuthi nasisalwa nalokuhlukubeta into lefuna singayishiyi ngemuva lenye tinkinga letikhona indzaba yekuswelakala kwemsebenzi nebuphuya lobukhona eveni lokungilokunye lokutimbangela lekuthi lanze lizinga lekuhlukubeta kuletigungu ke ngulapho ke siphinde sibuye ukuthi bomake abacala indlela tekutiphilisa ukuthi bakhona ukuthi batithuthukise bona bathuthukise imindeni yabo bathuthukise nemango yabo. Kujabulisa kakhulu nje nawubuka ukuthi solo ticalile letinhlelo lapho bomake bacala khona lemsebenzi yabo ekuthuthukisa baningi labazuzile futhi labende labomake ukuthi kube khona labasemangweni labathola emathuba emsebenzi. Lokho ke ngekwako kwenta lokuthi leli zinga lekuhlukubeta sikhona lokuthi lehle nalobe kahle ekuhlukubetekene ngoba soyakhona ukuthi iphilise uyakhona ukuthi aphume nekusho nje ukuthi kuletigungu siyayibuka indzaba yabantu labasha njengoba sikhulume ngekuswelakala kwemsebenzi imisebenzi ke kude so nabantu labasha babakhona lokuthi babe kuletigungu tabomake abantu labasha kakhulu kade emantombazana nabo bacale lemsebenzi yekuthi iphilisa and sende nesiciniseko sokuthi bobaba sibashiyi ngaphandle kanjalo nebafana ngoba letingcociswano nalokuchamuka naletisombululo nalokuthi kube ngilapho baphefumula khona angathi khanzi nje lo make noma lo babe noma lo mfana noma lentombazane lena seyihleti iyodwa seyizicabanga nekutibulala noma seyinenthukuthelo nelaka lelitawukanza ukuthi ilithululela kulomunye seyigcina nayo soboshiwe sithi akabe nendzawo yekucocisana kuboniswane kuthi kodwa ngingaphuma njani kule nkinga lenginayo nako nje lengingakusho ukuthi kusebenza kwetigungu kwende umsebenzi lomningi kakhulu emimangweni lapho sibe khona singumkhankaso.
Okay. Ngifuna sikhulume nje ecolani ngalesimo nje vele lesicubekako nje khona lemimango particularly kokuhlukubeteka kwebantwana labaneminyaka le below 18 years because kune report nje ya UNFPA la ikhokha lokho ukuthi 1 in 3 females bayahlukubeteka by the age of 18 years. Ingabe vele mhlambe nani buka mhlambe nani savakashela lemimango nisenda nani licwaningo lwenu kuba timo leti kanjani lokho kuhlukubeteka kwalabo bantwana labo ngabe mhlambe because siyasibona ama reports lamanye avete lokuthi vele sometimes it's family members bamhla babajwayele vele ingabe vele lesimo sikanjani vele lemimangweni kuba bobani lama perpetrators.
Indzaba ekuhlukubetwa kwabantwana indzaba lebhlungu kakhulu and nawubuka vele lizinga lapho sesiphinde sithola ukuthi kunebantwana labakhulelwe basesebancane lenyuke kakhulu even and most of lama cases nangibuka nje kuleti gungu lapho sicoca khona sikhuluma nabo make nabo babe nebantu labasha kulokuhlukubetana vele esikhathini lesiningi kwentiwa abantu labahlobene nabo labantwana yebo bakhona lapho bahlukubetwe bantu labangahlobani nabo mhlawumbe basemangweni ngiye ngithi uhlobene nawe ke lo muntu loyo ngoba uya kuye ube nekuthi mbabe wakho noma ngumuntu lo lamangweni lokufanele ukuthi akuvikele na ungumntwana so leli zinga ke lekucinzetela noma lekuhlukubetwa abantwana lisetulu kakhulu ikakhulu kade ngoba lemangweni lobubuya budlangile lokukhanze ukuthi imindeni kukhona tinto lesingakhona ukuthi sithi provide for abantu abethu lokufaka ikhathi indzaba yokuthi athole lokho langakusebenzisa nangabe asaye emfuleni njengoba umfula wesifazane njalo ngenyanga aye emfuleni lokuphinze netidzingo letinye ezakhula lo mntwana noma ngabe asengakasebenza sesesikolweni kunetidzingo letinto tsite letinye letilethwa i-peer pressure letinye letilethwa ukuthi ube exposed kubo social media abona ukuthi tikhona bese ke kuba naletigilamkhiba letithatha i-advantage sike saphinde sabuya solo sikhuluma indzaba yalabantwana indzaba yokuthi sima parents besicoca sisengonini nalabanye abantu labasha bathi batali babo abekho empilweni yabo lokunye lokwende ukuthi kube mningi umonakalo lo wendekako kibo la khathi emndenini ukhanze ukuthi uhlukubetwa ngibhuti wakhe ngumalume ngumzala maka kaboni baba kaboni ngoba sonke sibhizi sinemisebenzi yethu lesibhizi ngayo ngoba lempilo isiphushele lapho lokwenta ke ukuthi labantwana lokuhlukubeteka kube melula ukuthi bahlukubeteke ngoba vele kude lo muntu losonzelene nabo ukuthi akhone nokuthi abuke lokuthi kwentekani noma ngabe banaleto tidzingo baze baveta nje ukuthi kuyadzinga nalokuthi ekhaya nganyelanga noma ngabe kude leyo mali ngoba akusho ukuthi umntwana nakude imali tohamba khuluma nemntwana mende understand lokuthi leko lathi uyakufisa ukuthi wabe nako kunetinkinga nanati nalokuthi phindze nabo babe naleti gungu tabo lapho bachushisana khona bodwa ukuthi ungabe uyathatheka asibe nendlela yethu noma sifuna kuba bahle noma sifuna kube netinto letinhle kepha sithi ufune kahle so ngingasho nje ukuthi lizinga lekuhlukubetwa kwebantwana lokwente kwanyuka itindzaba te-teenage pregnancy kunengakhulu emangweni and nasicocisana nabo babe sikubuka lokuthi lendlela lesekuhlukubetwe ngayo abantwana yini lento lesingayenda ngoba phela most of the time labo labenta lemikhibo noma lokuhlukubeta kuba ngibo bantu besilisa so ngilokunye lapho sibuke khona ukuthi bobabe badzinga ukuthi sebaka bakhunjudwe nje ukuthi umuntu wesilisa mbuke umfana njengokuthi noma ngabe akasiwakho ukuthi ngumfana naye udzinga ukuthi avikeleke so leto tingcoco tekubisela lobuntu ebantwini tekubisela lokuthi sibantu siyadzinga ukuthi sivikelane nalokuthi nangabe kwentekile lokuhlukubeta akareport phela lo muntu kungabi dibidendlu ngoba lesikubonile labanye banengi bantwana labagcine batelwe bataliswe tihlobo kodwa indzaba yabhumbudzela kwathiwa dibidendlu so naloko ke kuyadzinga lokuthi kuze kuthi lento ingachubeki ababoshwe phela labo lababende lobo bucala lobo kulabo bantwana laba are below 18.
Wayisenza nje indzaba yabo babe i-report yavela la enhlanganweni yakaswakho lokuthi nabo sebayacala kancane kancane bayaphuma baya reporta ngekuhlubeteka kwabo last year nje bazivetela ukuthi vele baba banyendana nje labavela ukuthi bayahlubeteka. Ingabe nani ezi campaign kukhona indlela nikhona kubasita ngayo bobabe nabo lemimangweni bayakhona ndokuphuma bayakhona ukusho ukuthi nathi mayisahlubeteka la emakhaya ingabe linganani lelitsinga noma vele nibuke kakhulu lapho make?
Ngiyabonga Lungelelo, sisasemangweni I think leti gungu tekucocisana tabo babe bacoca bodwa tibe ngilenye indlela lenhle ukuthi bobabe babhoboke bakhulume ukuthi nabo babhekene nekucinzeteleka. And kusisite kakhulu lokubona ukuthi lolulaka nalenzondo noma lokubuka ukuthi nababuka umuntu wesifazane umuntu wesilisa lokunye kube kwendiwe ukuthi nabo bahlukubetekile empilweni tabo. So singumkhankaso sibukile ke ukuthi etinhlelweni tethu solo sisabe sisacocisana kuleti gungu sifundisane kwenta siciniseko sokuthi aseke sesibuke ukuthi ingabe babe noma make noma umuntu lomusha lo uphuma ekuhlukubetekeni simsita njani ukuthi akhone ukuthi ahilishe from the past hurtful experiences undlula njani kulesimo kuze kuthi nasithi sifuna kuyincamula le cycle ye GBV asente siciniseko sokuthi lobuhlungu nalesithozi siyakhwesha ngoba lokwendekako bosina sicoca nalabanye bobabe asho ukuthi ukhulile embikwa makwakhe ambona ahlukubeteka kwaba kuhlungu kuye wakhula ngoba yena awesilisa kuthiwa indvodza ayikhali uyashaya uyacinisela lenzondo yaba yinengi nalolulaka lokwendeke ukuthi noma ngabe asachubekele embili ucabanga ukuthi kuleyo nto lekufanele ayena sithi ke thina kumele lapha lo babe lo asingamelaphi kuphela ngekumfundisa nekungumchushisa ukuthi umthetho uthini nekuthi indzaba tekuhlukubetana dimbi kangakanani kanje asibese siyamsita kuphuma kulesimo lesi labe kaze angene kiso noma lesi la lendlulekiso phambilini. So lena ke initiative lesitayenda nenkampani lekuthiwa iUnoya yase South Africa lesitawucala ama sessions ngama communities ukuthi sikhone ukukhuluma nabo bobabe bendlulise lenthukuthelo kanjalo nebantu labasha nabo make.
Sona ezini saxoxisana nabo nje nani saxoxisana nesivile emimangweni nebafundzisa ngako ukuhlukubeteka tiphi nje tikhala lentibonako nani ezini sacubeka nje nalovakashelo novakashela ama communities inle nibuka ukuthi vele la kuyashoda kulona mango lona nje in terms of knowledge yabo ngato letindzaba letinokuthi usitho bangalithola kuphi.
Okay, ngiyabonga kunengi tigaba lapho bantu emangweni bashoda khona lwati. Sikubukile nje ukuthi indzaba yokuconza indzaba tebuholi luyashoda lwati kakhulu kungako sifisa kwenta siciniseko ukuthi sichubeke sibafundise bomake nebantu labasha nabo babe ngoba nasikhuluma ngebuholi nangabe sikhulumisa sicabanga ukuthi sifuna kuphakamisa make ukuthi abe sebuholeni kuphela siyekele kwenta babe understand ukuthi buholi lobungibo ngibuphi lobenta ukuthi bonke bulili buthuthuke lokungasita lomango kusite nelive la kangwane. So ngilokunye lokho lesibonile ukuthi basalele emuva kakhulu nasetindzabeni nje tindzaba tekwenta ukuthi emabhizinisi abo akhule ngilokunye lesifisa ngazuthi bebangathuthuka kibo ikakhulu bantu labasha njengoba kuswelakala imisebenzi eveni la kangwane. So ngiletinye tintfo lekufuna lesinako lokuthi bayadzinga lokuthi bathole lusito kuleto tindzaba leto and iyachubeka indzaba yokuthi bomake nemantfombatane bamukwe umhlaba and kuyindzaba lebhlungu kakhulu and siyafisa ukuthi eveni la kangwane nemimango labo labahola imango bayisukumele etulu lendzaba ngoba kuyindzaba lebhlungu kakhulu lotawukhanza ukuthi make abe nemuntu wakhe noma abantwana laba emantfombatane bashiyelwe batali babemiti sebemukiwe leyo mti leyo. So indzaba nje lebhlungu lokungabuki kuphela ukuthi ungumfelokati noma noma unjani labanye bamukwa nje ngokuthi sowehlukana nalobabe sekuvakala ngazuthi lendzawa ayimfanele ukuthi lo make bekangaba nayo sekuningi lokuthathwa kale mhlaba kulabo make lekuyinto lesicabanga ukuthi bayadzinga labo make noma labantu lemangweni ukuthi basitakale ngoba lesesikholelwa kiko ukuthi nasiletha lishinjwa akusike ukuthi kusukuma lo make kuphela asisukumelane sonke baba sukumele make umhlomusha sukumele babe kanjalo sivikelane sonke kungabi ukuthi make indzaba yakhe ukuthi asukume olwele ilungelo lakhe.
Senifinyelele nje kuma communities lamangakhe nje mhlawumbe nanibuka nje target yenu manicala le project ukuthi ivese kuvakashela ama communities nanzise ngalo lwati lo GBV ingabe vele mhlawumbe senifikile ku target yenu.
Sisengakafiki kusemningi umsebenzi lekufanele siwende kwanyalo imimango lesesiye kuyo ing30 and siyathi ke ukuthi ima communities kangwane manengi kakhulu more than 300 lekufanele singabe sifika kuye nangabe sithi solo sisenda sicinisa ukuthi wonke i-community lekhona khona ukuthi sicale letinhlelo siyakholelwa nje siyethemba ukuthi lapho sesengce khona noma lapho sikhona khona nyalo lolo lwati lesilushiyile liyawukhona ukuthi lichubekele nakuletinye tindzawo phindze futhi sisasekeleka sasitwa dinini letehlukahlukene sitawukhona ukuthi si-reach nalamanye ama-communities ku-encourage nje ukuthi indzaba yekulwa nekuhlukubeta neku-empowerisha bomake noma ema-communities ku-encourage nekucela tinkampani nasiye ndibe yi-priority asibasukumele lemimango ngoba ufika kanye if ubende kuba understand ukuthi ngibo laba baqhamuka netisombululo ngibo laba labafuna benetinto letikhonsako angeke bahlale bafuna ukuthi utekibo njalo bagcina sebatichubekela bakhichita bakhetha inhlelo sebayathi nokusibalanza abani nabafuna kufundiswa ngani nani so lokho ngekwako kusho ukuthi ushintshile impilo talomango uthishintshile impilo talabo make nemantombazane lokhu ngibo labahlala bacinzeteleka kakhulu.
So kulamalanga nivakashela yephi nje imiphakathi ama communities kude bamfo kude sive stoward sitawuda mhlambe sitawuthola lelo lwati.
Ngiyabonga kunyalo imimango lesihambelako nje ing10 sihambela eFirekhathi engonini phase enkundleni yasenhlambeni sihambele indondozi phase enkundla yasendondozi sihambele emshayankomo phase enkundla yaseludzeludze embekelweni sihambele evuvulani sihambele buhle biyeza sihambele emhlangeni sihambele ngithabala from the top of my head but nje ing10 lama communities lesiwahambela konyalo just to make sure ukuthi lalapho sifike safundisa khona sishinje kepha siyachubeka sithuthukise lo lwati kuze ukuthi batokhona ukuthi icubekela bathi khulumise tindzaba tabo siphinde sibe naseshiselweni kunema communities la khona lapho eMantambe lapho sikhona khona sikhuluma nabo make siphinde sibe khona na se but semanengi ukuthi nje sengikhohliwe but nje ngama communities lesinawo angithende sihambela nyalo but sitawonda siqiniseke ukuthi siyabangeta nalabanye sendele siqiniseke ukuthi abasalele emuva njengoba dinenge icelo lesititholako leqhamuka emangweni ukuthi nami kulo mango wami fikani siyafuna kuhlangana ndilokusijabulisa ukuthi kule mimango sihamba nalabaholi bemango ngibo laba hlela nalokuthi leti ngcoco ihamba njani lokwenta ke ukuthi bakhone kuvikeleka labo labacala ama projects bakhone kusekeleka nalabo nase bakhuluma leto tingcoco noma lapho sekunenkinga lapho sebacinzeteleke khona.
Ngoba sesengasemaphethelweni nje culana ukubutela nje make mhlambe naye lo ofisile kuba ingcenye lama meetings mhlambe lo solo edele courage ukuthi naye angavela ofisile kulalela ofisile mhlambe kubona ukufaka imibono yakhe kuma nje kumneta nje amagama ekumcinisa kumniketa courage ukuthi akavele naye atawubika mhlambe lokho kuhlubedeka ingabe vele mhlambe ungathini.
Singumkhankaso lesikukhuthatha kakhulu ukuthi indzaba yekulwa nekuhlukubeta akusindzaba lengentiwa inhlangano yinye noma iorganization yinye sikholelwe kubambisaneni sithi ke make lohlukubetekile akawasebenzise leti hlangano letihlukahlukene letilwa nekuhlukubetwa kwabomake noma letilwa netindzaba tekuhlukubetana. Phindze futhi sibike emaphoyiseni nangabe kunekuhlukubeteka. Lokuhle nala ama-structures noma lama baholi labasemangweni sebafundisekile ukuthi uma umfuni akahlukubetekile wenda njani, indzaba yakhe isetshenzwa njani kuze kuthi atokhona kusitakala. Ngikho nje lengingakusho ukuthi asingafeli indzawonye, asiphumeni sikhone ukuthi sicoce nalabanye abantu, sikhone ukuthi si-empowerishane sodwa, phindze futhi singakuhlaleli kuhlukubeta. Nangabe ukubonile kuyenteka kulomunye ku-report njengoba SODV issue.
So nivame kuhlanganela kuphi etinkhundleni noma kuba khona mhlawumbe lenye indzawo lenilfolako?
Kuyashiyana, singahlanganela etinkundleni noma emiphakathi kuma-gogo center noma indzawo lapho labomake labayibonile ukuthi ikhululekile ukuthi besingacocisana khona mhlambe kusesontweni noma endzaweni lapho vele bahlala bahlanganela khona nangabe benda noma bahlanganela kukhuluma letindzaba tetinhlangano tabo. So kuba indzawo le lapho beva ngazuthi abasi-intimidated, ayisi indzawo lathi nathi uyabuka around mhlambe eva ngasi-comfortable ukukhuluma. So senda siciniseke ukuthi asiye kuleyo ndzawo lapho batawujabulela kuba khona bative bakhululekile ukucocisana noma basacoca.
Okay, so kwagcina ingabe mhlawumbe kuma social media pages niyatfolakala yini kumbe mhlawumbe labata officer nje kuthola more information?
I think more information isinayo i-Facebook page yethu i-1 Billion Rising Eswatini. Lapho si-update nakhona sonke isikhathi ukuthi ngikuphi lapho sesiye khona bathini bantu. Sikhona naka Instagram nakhona sichubeka sifake khona ama-updates ukuthi sesisebende kangakanani. Siphindze futhi sente isiqiniseko sokuthi sine likhasi lethu lelika Oswazi Observer lapho si-update khona ngekusebenta kwethu nakhona ngilapho bangakhona kuthola khona more information. Ema-office ethu aka Flas Building ngamanzini mhlambe loyo lofina ufisa kufika sibonane buso nebuso, kepha thina sikholelwa ukuthi tisombululo tebantu atendekele emangweni ngoba ngalelinye ilanga kufika timo lapho kanze ukuthi lo muntu akasakhoni kuhamba njengoba safikelwa i-COVID. I-COVID yasenda singasakhoni kuhamba, kepha le lapho ngikhona khona kufuna ngibe nendlela ukuthi ngithole lisito khona, ngingaze ngifune ngihambe ngiye kulenye indzawo. Kungawo kuleto tigungo sinanaba lesibabita ngokuthi ngema-pillars of support laba khona ukuthi bahambe nabo labo bomake noma labo bantu emangweni labadzinga lisito noma labadzinga kufundiseka.
Okay, anokuyevakala sibangakulicolani kuba nathi imbukeli sithemba ukuthi sowutivele lapho umkhankaso i-1 Billion Rising solo yachubeka nekuvakashela imimango lehlukahlukene kwanzisa lwati njengato tindzaba tekuhlukubeteka ukuthi ngabe labo labatikhanzisa abahlukubetekile lusito bangalutfola kuphi. So vetileke lapha colani ukuthi emahofisini abo bayatfolakala emahofisini aka Flas ngamanzini kanjalo kwe naka Facebook kanye naka Instagram ungakhona ukubahlola ukuthi batabe bakuphi kuleli viki noma ke kule nyanga phi imimango labatabe bayivakashele. Asibahlele temakethe sibuye ne-traffic update.
Lesi sikhathi lapho khona emaphoyisa agubha kuba khona kwawo even. Kulapho kukhuthathwa khona sive ukuthi sike sihlale phansi sibuke bumcoka bemaphoyisa empilweni yabantu. Siphindze sibuke tindlela letinsha tekuphepha kubo bonke bucala lobuveta sihloko. Sive sakangwane siyakhunjutwa ukuthi singawafaki emaphoyisa etinkulumeni tepolitiki ngoba liphoyisa alingeni futhi alingenelani nepolitiki. Emaphoyisa alwa nebucala netingoti temgwaco kuphela nje. Ingako emaphoyisa athi wonke umuntu eveni akahlale ngaphandle kwekunceneka ukuthi angahle ahlaselwe tilwane tasendle. Umuntu lohlala eSwatini akatiphilele atisebentele ngaphandle kwekwesaba kuhlaselwa kwemucwa nekucekelwa phansi kwembahla yakhe. Nawe wena lophathekile emaphoyisa athi digulele kahle uze uphile ngaphandle kwekuphathamiseka. Lokungenteka ngekuthi tidlova tingene tihlasele labo labakunakekelako kuleyo ndlu. Sive lesihlakaniphile Nguleso lesiphakamisa kusebenta kwemaphoyisa nabo bonke labalwa nebucala. Ngale kwaloko timbungushe tiyawuwangenela emazinyane kungenamuntu ekhaya. Nomlayeto niulethelwa ngemaphoyisa eMbube abambisene nomsakato wetithombe.
Welcome back. Lesikhathi sidabuka simo semgwaqo na Sergeant Kule asekuvusele emagwabane namhla ekseni kuhambeka kanjani emigwaqweni?
Angivusele ethombeni ngivusele ngalokukhethekile umbukelo waloluhlelo. Sivuka namuhla imigwaqo yethu kuyabonakala ukuthi awumthamo wetimoto lo uyaphakama sibile emigwaqweni. Kwenta nje isiqiniseko sokuthi nje awubekunene asichubeke sishayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela baningi banzana. Baningi nalabo ikakhulukazi labasebenzisa donati imotolo nekugcizelela nje kakhulu kubatali ukuthi awubekunene batali phela ababanake banthana batibuke imotolo labahamba ngato bende isiqiniseko sokuthi ke balayisheka kahle ngelinani lelifanele nekokuthi ke bahambe ngaso isikhathi kuze ukuthi emgwaqweni bahambe ngako kunaka kakhulu basayisebenzisa imigwaqo kanti ke lesingakuveta nje lokukhulu lokukhona emgwaqweni la khathi edolobheni laseMbabane nasi yasalati lesisomhlolo road solo siyakhiwa leso sitaladi leso ingcenye yalona mgwaqo uvaliwe ngakho ke asendeke isiqiniseko sokuthi sisebenzisa ke leminye imigwaqo lengenela lona lidolobha uqhamuka khona lapha kubosandla yebo bo selection park ohlela khona lapha kubolunga house nekuveta ke balangeni namahle ukuthi yebo sivulelwe iganyana lapho singahamba khona kepha ke siyacela ukuthi ke asinake ukuthi singahambi lapho sebalungiselele ukuthela lona litiyela phela ngoba ngakwena njalo sibabuyisela khona ke emuva na usuka emotshane ubheka khona lapha kubonkaba yebo ubheka khona lapha bomnyokane umgwaqo nakhona uyavalwa lezo tikojana ema-potholes nakhona bashayeli bayaxwayisa ukuthi bashayele ngalokukhulu ukucophelela ikakhulukazi kwehlisa lona ke litubane usahamba kuleyo mgwaqo la upho lapho kunalabo labasebenza khona ke emgwaqweni kanti ke kulonye ihlangothi lana usuka khona ke laseNgwenya uyakhona kaManzini uhamba ngemgwaqo lomkhulu lapha enthabeni eMangwaneni noma ke lapha nawuqala kwehla yona inthaba yakumalagwane i-cooling station ikhona lapho imiselo nalidrendwe lemaloli kwatise ukuthi ke ayawugcina umzila longasenxele bese kuthi sine lesihamba ngetimotolo sigcina ke umzila ke longasekudla ngaso sonke isikhathi nakhona litubane lisibhekile ukuthi silehlise sibashayeli sisenca kuleyo ngcingwana leyo nekuveta nje ukuthi kuwumgwaqo lomkhulu uyalungiswa ubuyisela ukuthi ube sesimele sikahle ikakhulukazi emalambu lathi sisita ukuthi kukhanya khanye kulona mgwaqo bayawuthi ke nabo banciphisa umgwaqo banciphisa ke umzila losekhathi nekhathi bese sivuleleka ukuthi sisebenzise wona ke umzila longephandle noma ke longasenxele ngaso sonke isikhathi nakhona bekunene asendeke isiqiniseko sokuthi sendlula ngelitubane leliyawuba ngilelo leliphansi kanti lapha endasi kaManzini sisebena kahle tibane tethu futhi emgwaqo kucela nje sive ikakhulukazi lapha sebenzisa nange umgwaqo long central distributor usuka lapha eNazarene lapha eceleni kwasemavuso nawubuka eCentral sekunetigojana lesitibonakala titimbi kakhulu ikakhulukazi nawuqhamuka emavuso ubheka khona eNazarene letenda ke ukuthi ke bancike kakhulu kulomzila lobheka khona lapha eCentral kanti nakuthi tibane temgwaqo letikhona lapha eCentral asicaphele emalangeni lamahle ngumgwaqo lomkhulu lona uvulekile nama-speed humps lebeka khona lapha anciphisa lona litubane kwatisa ukuthi kunetikola letiningi letakhelene nalena ndlela nawo lo mgwaqo lapho ke bekunene uyabonakala ukuthi ke cha uvulekile nje ke asinake bantfana ikakhulukazi njengoba bahamba ngetinyawo bewela kanti ke kude nemidwebo yaphansi kwatise ukuthi umgwaqo lo sanza kulungiswa lapho nakhona bashayeli sithi abekunene asilehlise litubane banake bantfana singahambi ngesivinini lesisetulu njengoba umgwaqo sowumuhle sowuhambeka nalapha eStella House nawusuka uthatha nangemgwaqo lobheka khona lapha kulichaka nalapho litiyela selifakiwe kepha ke siyacela ukuthi sicaphele nakhona kusethe imidwebo yaphansi kanti nawuqhamuka ezakhele wenyukela khona lapha ku-Pick n Pay ku-10 Street lapho umgwaqo uvaliwe ingcenye yalona mgwaqo loyo sivulelwe nje kwesigatshana lesingakhona ukusebenzisa siyawuncikisane sibambisane sinikedane wona-ke emathuba lapha endasenishiselweni nawusuka lapha ekhasini ungena ekhasi edolobheni nakhona uyalungiswa umgwaqo lapho lekwenta-ke ukuthi mhlawumbe sihambe ngendledlana lingakatayeleki libekiwe-ke noko timpawu kusicaphelisa lapho bese kuba ngawo-ke ama-pothole cishe emigwaqweni yonke yelive lesithi nje sichubeke bekunene liso lakho libe ngilelo lelikhaliphile kucenza yona indlela nekwena ngesinisisekelo sokuthi sowubonile uyawushayela ngalo litubane leli yaba ngilelo leliphephile kuloko nje kuseni akube indlela lenhle konke losebenzisa umgwaqo nani endlini emsangado sinifisele ilanga lelishe naligcwele sona thibusiso siyabonga kakhulu Sombele.
Asibakakhulu Sergeant Kule kusiniketa loyo mbiko wayo i-traffic lamhla ekuseni asithathe likhefu sibuye netindzaba tetfu tangephandle. Good morning and welcome back. It's 3 minutes after 7. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at international news. A Palestinian hunger strike.
My wife called and said that a Qassam rocket hit our yard. Thank God there were no casualties. No one was in the yard. The children were in the shelter.
The rockets fired from Gaza were a reaction to the death of Hader Adnan. On Tuesday morning, the Israeli prison administration announced the death of this Islamic Jihad figure who had been on hunger strike for 3 months in protest of his detention. For many Palestinians, he was a symbol of resistance. His death provoked a wave of anger in Gaza, but also on the West Bank. For the Palestinian Prime Minister, it's a crime perpetrated by Israel.
We consider this to be an intentional killing due to the rejection of his request for release, medical negligence, and his continued detention in his cell despite the seriousness of his condition.
According to 2 Palestinian officials speaking to Reuters, a ceasefire went into effect in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Information that is yet to be verified by Israeli officials.
Persistent fighting between Sudan's rival generals undermined efforts to firm up a truce on Wednesday as a senior UN official arrived for talks on providing relief to millions of trapped civilians. The visit by top UN humanitarian official Martin Griffiths comes 1 day after neighboring South Sudan announced the warring sides had agreed in principle to a 7-day ceasefire.
Smoke billowing from the Khartoum skyline as fighting in the city continues. The Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces have agreed to a 7-day ceasefire due to begin on Thursday, according to South Sudan, which has been acting as a mediator in the conflict. Also desperate to find a resolution is the African Union.
Our priority today is to ensure that the ceasefire is respected and extended. Then it will be to ensure humanitarian assistance.
None of the previous truces have been respected, and currently, neither of the 2 leaders have commented on the announcement.
This is not the first ceasefire. It's the 5th or 6th one, and the previous ones have not been respected. Unfortunately for the Sudanese, it's a stalemate. Fighting is taking place around the country's seat of power, like the Republican Palace and the army's headquarters.
The nation of over 45 million inhabitants has been struck by chaos since fighting broke out on the 15th of April. The clashes have left over 500 dead and thousands injured, mainly in Khartoum and Darfur in the west. Meanwhile, around 100,000 people have been forced to flee to neighboring countries with little food or water.
Police in Kenya clashed with anti-government protesters on Tuesday in the capital, Nairobi, during a fresh round of demonstrations called by the opposition leader. Opposition lawmakers marched to the president's office in the central business district to present a petition. Police dispersed them with tear gas.
It was a tense day in the Kenyan capital. Carrying rifles and protective gear, riot police fired tear gas at a small group of protesters. Elsewhere in Nairobi, protests turned violent on Tuesday.
We saw protesters coming from the other side, and they started throwing stones at the bus. The driver wasn't able to back up, and he ran away. The protesters crossed the road, they started beating us and stealing our handbags and phones. They threatened to stab us if we refused to give in. I was beaten and they stole my phone and shoes.
I do not support the protests. The elections are over. We have a president.
The protests had been called for by opposition leader Raila Odinga. He lost to William Ruto in last year's election. The opposition had already held several large-scale demonstrations in March. The rallying cry? High living costs and alleged fraud in last year's election. After suspending demonstrations in early April, opposition lawmakers on Tuesday marched to the president's office to present a petition on the high cost of food, fuel, and electricity, but they were dispersed by police. After a month of calm, the opposition seems determined to step up its action against the government. It has vowed to return to the streets on Thursday.
According to this year's World Press Freedom Rankings, the environment for journalism is bad in 7 out of 10 countries. The yearly rankings published by Reporters Without Borders evaluates 180 countries.
The 2023 rankings by Reporters Without Borders, also known by its French acronym RSF, finds the biggest drops in press freedom have been in Africa. Tunisia, for example, fell 27 places because of President Kais Saied's growing authoritarianism. Another country, Senegal, which historically has ranked high, plummeted 31 places. Sadibou Marang is the West Africa director for RSF based in Dakar, Senegal. He spoke to VOA via Skype.
The country has been for so long time a regional model in terms of press freedom. And now, as we go towards elections periods in 2024, we have witnessed and recorded attacks against crew, against TV crews, against cameramen, against journalists themselves. And these attacks have been coming from either security forces or political actors. And those political actors might be from the opposition or from the ruling party.
He says several countries in the Sahel have also become problematic, especially for the foreign media. Both Burkina Faso and Mali expelled French journalists last year, and Mali suspended broadcast of France 24 television and Radio France Internationale. On the other side of the continent, some countries have been repeat offenders, says Muthoki Mumo, Sub-Saharan Africa representative for the Committee to Protect Journalists, another international press freedom organization.
The top, unfortunately, is Eritrea, repeatedly every year, because of the private press having been shuttered for over 2 decades now, and at least 16 journalists being imprisoned, many of them since 2001. We also look at Cameroon, again, where you have journalists who've been imprisoned for years and years, and Rwanda in the East Central Africa region, where we've seen a crackdown on journalism online, manifesting in the arrest, particularly of YouTubers, over the last couple of years.
She said 2023 started on a particularly sour note.
When you look at Sub-Saharan Africa, I think by February, we'd already had 3 prominent deaths, 2 in Cameroon, Martinez Zogo, Jean-Jacques Olabebe, both of whom spoke about corruption. And, John Williams Ntwali in Rwanda.
She said Ntwali was one of the few remaining fearless journalists operating mainly on YouTube, willing to cover subjects that no one else was covering. Somalia is also considered a dangerous and hostile environment for journalists, Mumo pointed out. And she says that with the advent of online journalism, CPJ is seeing more laws being enacted to criminalize speech, especially in Kenya and Uganda.
The fact that we're seeing a lot of media just simply existing on the online space, we're seeing attendant regulation. Parliaments, governments saying, this is a space we need to regulate, talking about cybercrime, talking about safety of children, talking about privacy, which are all very important things that we ought to be looking at. But in the process, slipping in laws that take us years backwards.
There are a few countries on a positive trajectory that both Mumo and Marong lauded, including Botswana, which rose 35 places to now rank 65th, as well as Tanzania and Gambia.
Last year, Gambia was 50. Now this year they are 46 in ranking. This is an extraordinary step because Gambia's during former President Jammeh was hell for journalists.
Namibia is the highest-ranking African country on this year's RSF index at 22, followed by South Africa at 25 and Cape Verde at 33.
Reporters Without Borders has just released its World Press Freedom Index for 2023, and it shows that journalists around the world face an increasingly hostile environment.
Reporters Without Borders says it evaluated 180 countries in 2022 and found that the press freedom environment in 70% of them was problematic.
There were 533 journalists imprisoned around the world by our count. Another factor that's increasing the volatility for journalists around the world is the dissemination of disinformation that's being amplified by our artificial intelligence.
In March, Moscow detained American journalist and reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Evan Gershkovich, on charges of espionage, allegations the reporter denies. Weimers noted that Russia's crackdown on the media accelerated after the invasion of Ukraine, falling another 9 places to rank 164.
What we saw was a wholesale crackdown on mentions of the war on the internet, on the ability of journalists to cover what was really going on. We also saw Russian armed forces targeting the media on the battlefield in Ukraine, and 8 journalists were killed.
East Asia also has some of the worst scores on the index. Vietnam ranked 178 on the list. It has cracked down on reporters and commentators.
In the case of China and North Korea, there is no free press. It simply doesn't exist.
Reporters in Iran faced repression covering protests related to Mahsa Amini, who died after she was arrested by the morality police. Africa's rating on media freedom also fell last year. In Latin America, Reporters Without Borders sounded the alarm for what they say is a lack of accountability when journalists are murdered.
And this is driven in large part by countries like Mexico, where fundamentally the rule of law has broken down.
The killing of investigative journalist Jeff German, who was stabbed to death in September, contributed to America falling 3 places in the ranking.
There's always been cases where, people either dismiss the importance of journalists or they actually take violent actions against them because they're trying to repress the information and they want to control the message.
Accountability is key to protecting media freedoms. UNESCO's Guilherme Canella told VOA.
In some countries, the rate of impunity is 99%. The global rate is 86, which is high, almost of 10 killings of journalists, almost 9, they go unpunished. So the first thing we can do in the international system is concretely implement this broader view of prevention, protection, and prosecution.
On the digital front, UNESCO says female journalists are increasingly being threatened and, in some cases, physically attacked.
The Pentagon said Tuesday it will deploy more troops to help provide security at the U.S.-Mexico border as officials fear a surge in migrant crossing attempts when COVID-19 immigration restrictions end on May 11th. Some 1,500 troops will be sent to the border, adding to the 2,500 already there to support Border Patrol authorities in the face of a possible gush of frontier crossings.
a mechanism to carry out mass deportations. Title 42 has, since it was put in place by Donald Trump in March 2020, led to over 2.5 million expulsions of migrants along the U.S.'s Mexico border. But the COVID-era policy is expiring May 11th. Fearing a surge of asylum seekers and migrants, the U.S. said it is sending 1,500 active duty troops to temporarily help Border Patrol.
This is a common practice, if you will. These personnel will be performing administrative tasks like data entry and warehouse support. They will not be performing law enforcement functions or interacting with immigrants or migrants.
But the temporary move is summarily disliked nearly all around. The Pentagon has long been frustrated that troops are used for mundane tasks. They're seeking, its press secretary said, alternative options. For Republicans, Biden isn't taking a hard enough stance. And for some Democrats, the latest deployment is political maneuvering. Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat and the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, lambasted the move in a statement.
Trying to score political points or intimidate migrants by sending the military to the border caters to the Republican Party's xenophobic attacks on our asylum system.
The Biden administration itself has long been frustrated by its inability to pass comprehensive immigration reform. With the end of Title 42, it will revert to older statutes and warns of new policies to dissuade illegal passage. As for migrants at the border, they say the troop deployment won't be helpful.
It's absurd to bring in the military because we're not criminals. We're not criminal gangs. We're migrants who are fleeing out of necessity.
Mexico's president, for his part, also responded, saying he respects U.S. sovereignty. But in Washington, the risk of a surge is a reminder that illegal immigration remains an unresolved, politically explosive issue in the United States.
A pioneer of artificial intelligence said he quit Google to speak freely about the technology's dangers after realizing computers could become smarter than people far sooner than he and other experts had expected.
It's technology that could be superior to the human brain, and one of its pioneers now says part of him regrets his role in creating it. 75-year-old computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton says he quit his job at Google so he can independently share his concerns about AI technology, which include fears over disinformation and stealing human jobs, but also go far beyond that.
What do we do to mitigate the long-term risks of things more intelligent than us taking control? Things like GPT-4 eclipses a person in the amount of general knowledge it has, and eclipses them by a long way. In terms of reasoning, it's not as good, but it does already do simple reasoning. And given the rate of progress, we expect things to get better quite fast. So we need to worry about that.
It's just the latest warning that tech companies might be creating a monster they can't control. In March, after OpenAI released the latest model of its chatbot, GPT-4, more than 1,000 people from the tech industry, including billionaire Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, signed a letter calling for a pause on AI development, while the risks are properly studied.
AI is a tool. Technology is not neutral, but we can shape it the way we want to shape it. We just have to stop being driven by profit, by competition, by those questions, and just place the construction of the tool in service of something bigger. And this is where regulators have a role to play, but it's not going to be easy.
While organizations like the OECD have issued guidelines, little AI regulation exists. The US just launched a study of possible accountability measures in April, and the European Union has put forward an Artificial Intelligence Act, but the far-reaching legislation has yet to be passed.
Hollywood film and television writers went on strike on Tuesday, shutting down late-night TV shows and took their demands for higher pay to the doors of major studios in a labor dispute that hinges on how the streaming boom is changing show business.
Hollywood screenwriters have hit the streets, and this time what they're writing about is anything but fictional.
No contract, no scripts. No contract, no scripts.
Hundreds of writers gathered in front of Netflix headquarters on day one of the first writers' strike in 15 years. The streaming giant, a major symbol of an industry which has changed so much.
They have been around for a while now, but no adjustments have really been made since that time. So it's reached a critical mass at this point where we're willing to strike over it because they've shown an unwillingness to do it without striking.
Among their demands, better pay, mandatory staffing to ensure more writers are involved in the creative process, and guarantees against artificial intelligence.
You can't steal our soul. They really want to replace us. They'll be like, oh, you know, no need for copyrights, no need for royalty, no need for anything.
It's not just Hollywood's youngest media behemoths that are being targeted. Similar protests were held across the city, including at Sony headquarters.
Our residuals that we used to get from airing on television around the world, streaming companies don't give us, they give us a pittance of residuals. We're not getting the money we used to get.
The entertainment industry could be in for a rough ride. Both directors and actors unions will also be entering negotiations in the next few weeks.
Without the writers, we can't work. So if there's no writers to write any of the shows that we want to work and be on, it directly impacts us too. Just like if the actors are on strike, the writers have nothing to or nobody to write for.
The attention will quickly turn now to how long this strike will go on for. 15 years ago, it went on for 100 days, costing the Los Angeles area $2 billion. As for the writers themselves, the Writers Guild has a $20 million fund to cover the writers for the duration of this strike.
The fountain pen is a writing instrument declared obsolete numerous times by technological innovations, the ballpoint pen, the typewriter, the computer keyboard, and now by rendering our voices into text on mobile phones. But the 19th century invention is still evolving, thanks in part to an American mechanical engineer.
In a warehouse in a gritty Philadelphia neighborhood, Ian Sean is doing something no one else in America does: manufacturing writing implements with nibs, the business end of the pen, handcrafted from titanium.
The way we're doing it is really what makes us separate from the other brands and other companies that have done this in the past, which is utilizing equipment in this workshop that's traditionally designed for aerospace or medical manufacturing and repurposing it to create an innovative, unique experience that is just different.
Not only different in the 21st century, it's also counterintuitive. With a risky investment and expensive equipment to make a product for a niche market.
A fountain pen's impractical. It can be messy. It's not as good as a ballpoint pen. It's expensive. So it's really in line with the culture of the pen user that it's irrational and strange.
Showing off his collection at Philadelphia's 130-year-old Pen and Pencil Club, formed by journalists fielding fountain pens to conduct their interviews, investment analyst Tony Blair says the antiquated writing instrument endures as an antidote to the digital age.
Anytime you introduce input-output, like you do with a computer, now there's also, well, there's these other distractions, and if I get a pop-up and lose my thread, or if I type up something, am I going to remember it to the same way that I think writing something by hand helps you remember it?
For many of the younger generations who did not get instruction in cursive script, this instrument is as mysterious as the rotary dialed telephone or the film camera.
Now we have a really cool collection that I would say is great for novice users in particular.
That's Liz Sieber, owner of Philadelphia's Omoizaka Japanese-themed stationery shop, which sells fountain pens, writing paper, and ink.
Some people really understand what the different nibs are about and the difference between a machine-aligned or a hand-aligned nib. And then we also meet a lot of people who have never tried one before and are looking for something that's like not too expensive, easy to use, plays nice with a lot of different types of paper.
More stores in Japan than in the United States carry Sean's Made in Philadelphia pens, thus creating a tiny entry on the export side of America's trade deficit ledger.
I love that challenge. I love being the underdog, and I like just also, defying the things we think about when it comes to the way we run a business. are very in line with the reasons people use fountain pens.
That challenge is also writing a new page in the story of American entrepreneurship.
Lionel Messi faces being suspended by PSG after traveling to Saudi Arabia earlier this week without the club's permission, a source with knowledge of the matter said on Tuesday.
This is the story of a so-called GOAT, greatest of all time, to his millions of fans, whose fame on the pitch makes him a fortune off it. He's the face of Saudi Arabian tourism and a regular visitor, earning a reported $30 million a year to promote the kingdom. 4 days ago, he posted this Instagram update advertising the greenery of Saudi Arabia and what he called the unexpected wonders. Well, it was unexpected for Paris Saint-Germain, as it turned out he travelled there despite his club reportedly turning down his request to go so late into the football season. Now, according to a source with knowledge of the situation, Messi's suspended for 2 weeks and no pay in that time. On the face of it, just an organisation punishing an employee. But insiders say there's more to it, both for the club and the player. The 35-year-old is linked with a return to Barcelona, finishing a European career he began and a place he's idolised. With his PSG contract up in the summer, was that a factor?
I don't know. Look, I have to make a lot of decisions here, like giving an opinion about another club and another player, in this case, Leo. I don't know what happened. I don't know the situation, so I can't comment.
For Paris Saint-Germain, their €3 million a month star appears to be a fall guy for an inconsistent season made up of a galaxy of star players on astronomical salaries. He's even been jeered by fans recently. There's been no comment by the club or Lionel Messi so far.
29 minutes after 7, we've come to the end of our international news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break. We'll resume shortly.
Watch local TV on the go with the Eswatini TV app for only 20 emalangeni. Come on. Do the most with Eswatini TV app. Download from Google Play Store or App Store. We're good together.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the Royal Eswatini National Airways Corporation successfully launched their first 2 phases of planned scheduled operations. Phase 1 comprises flights between Eswatini and Johannesburg, which was launched on the 26th of March 2023. Phase 2 is for flights between Eswatini and Harare, which was launched on the 14th of April 2023. Batshabile Nkambule is the Marketing and Communications Manager, Karinek. She joins me now to talk about their route launch program, Lechubekago. So, to a very good morning. Welcome to the show. Kunjani namhlanje?
Good morning, Philiswa. Siyaphila namhlanje.
Abalati ke leligama lelo sobaxoxela nje ukuthi ngikhule nawe sikhule kanye kanye, but it's whatever. Very good morning. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ukuthi ukhonile kuvuka namhlanje ukuthi sijoyina. You have launched 2 phases already. Exciting development. I think Live Kangwane is going through a proud moment ngemisebenzi leniyendako. I think nje ngiqala ngekunishayela tanda kuloko umsebenzi muhle kakhulu. Ni launche phase 1 5 weeks ago. Phase 2 namlauncha kuhlangana iviki lesithathu nyalo. I think singangeni kulo phase 3 lo tosicocela ngaye namuhla. Kungasipha nje isithombe ukuthi nisebenze njani kulo first 2 phases. How's the uptake?
Phase 1 was Johannesburg flights. commenced 26 April. So for Johannesburg, we have 2 flights daily, a morning flight that departs at 7 a.m. and an evening flight from Eswatini that departs at 4 p.m.
Okay.
So for Johannesburg, we have been seeing overwhelming support from both local and outbound customers. People are excited about the airline. It's really humbling. We are getting numbers that are rising day by day. Well, some days, that is another sign.
Yeah.
Of course. But the traffic is growing daily, and we really appreciate the support we are getting. And then the second phase was Harare. The Harare route is surprising us. Yes. It seems to be the promising, some routes we haven't launched, so I will not say of the 4.
So far.
But so far, Harare has been amazing in terms of traffic.
Yeah.
And yes, there's a lot of traveling there.
And I'll always ask you this question. The question in Kwakulu, sibona nama prices nyalo. Babukele makhaya babuka nama prices. Johannesburg sitting at 1.3. Sibuka Harare sitting at 2.1. Ngesingene kulala manye kakhulu nyalo ngoba sita ungena bo phase 3 angathi ukuthi nye Cape Town noma Durban. Let's talk about these prices. Now sibuka 1.3 to Durban. Alo 2.1 to Harare. Significantly low prices. Amaswati, mina nje as a broadcast journalist, the response I see it follow after lama interview lawa na Rinak. Kutsi we are very excited ngalama prices lawa ngiwola sicudela ukuthi sihambe. Akanlimadi kakhulu ngoba phela egcineni vele nebusiness. Ngeke sikubalekele lokho.
True that, Sfiso. The issue of pricing, remember we came up with a slogan, the city everyone must fly. So our mandate as the airline is to stimulate the market in Eswatini especially to start flying. Because for a long time, airlines have been perceived to be expensive. They are for the elite, something like that. So we are trying to crush that stigma and stimulate the markets to fly. So if you may compare the pricing by road, shuttles Nyalo are going high to almost what we offer. So we had to do that benchmarking for us to stimulate the market here. And we had to literally project it into our financial projections so that it doesn't seem like we're taking losses. It's something like we have buffered against. So these are fares. There's a range of them. These are our lowest fares. So they are for stimulating the market, and we will monitor them as and when the traffic grows, as per supply and demand, to see how we can play about it.
I think umbukele makhaya akakuvisisa lo ukuthi this is your lowest phase right now. Ahambe nyalo. Sina indzaba procrastinator indzaba double traveling singemaswati. Bathabile I think impressa kakhulu indzaba ye pricing. But sisasuka kuyo indzaba ye pricing. I want us ukuthi sibuke indzaba ukuthi kule nyanga lesikuyo le we have a big event in Eswatini, critically acclaimed by BBC as one of the top festivals in Africa, MTN Bushfire Festival. Do you see an opportunity of leveraging foreign exchange in the form of tourists labeta kule event le? Hotels are already fully booked. Yeah, ngabe ma bookings wona hamba kanjani?
We are, maybe let me mention with Bushfire, we have some kind of a partnership.
Oh, great.
Yes, so we are advertising each other.
Okay.
So people coming to Bushfire are being enticed to fly Eswatini into the kingdom. And we are getting rising numbers for bookings for the month of May. In as far as Bushfire is concerned and other bookings because there's inbound and outbound travel here.
Interesting. Nas display I flyer earlier on on the screen levetema prices. Ngikuba observant kwami ngimnakile lo Durban na Cape Town. Ngikhuluma nga phase 3 nyalo. Engabe talk to me about ukuthi nanlaunch lo phase 3 siyaphi nyalo. Siya le Durban nga 1.3 noma siya Cape Town nga 2.2.
Our phase 3 comprises flights to Durban, which we are launching Friday, tomorrow. We will be doing, for the month of May, we will be having 3 flights on Mondays, on Thursdays, and Saturdays. Our first flight departing at 10:30 in the morning to land in Durban at 11:30. Then we'll depart Durban at 14:10 to arrive in Eswatini at 15:10. So we are enticing the Eswatini nation to come purchase these tickets while the specials last to connect even via Durban as there are connecting flights there. And yes.
Masikhuluma ngaDurban, ngikhuleke mina I preempted ukuthi we grew up together. Nasifundza lekubongwane practicing bekunento ekuthiwa ma-trips, ma-school trips. Every year bekiwa at Durban. And Durban has always been a holiday destination for Eswatini. I think last year I had about 4 of my friends labaya nemindeni yabo at Durban. Engabe nisabuka ukuthi niyamlaunch lo Durban. What are your aspirations and ambitions and hopes ekutheni looking at Durban as a holiday destination velele ngathi is one of lalapha eTulu for eMaswati. Nibuka kusebenza kanjani kulolu hlangothi?
Well, for us, Durban is an interesting destination because it gives us the opportunity now to avail transport services to a variety of segments. So it's not only a family destination, it's business travelers as well. It's leisure, it's your solo travels. I mean, you're visiting family and friends, as we have South African relatives, you know. So people flying in and out for us is really something great. And it even in connections in as much as Laguna Lama harbors, and there's so much trade happening. So it's a lot in one. We are very excited about it. So for the month of June, we will have daily flights in and out of Durban.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting development. I think my parting question is a question ngikhumbula ukukhula kwami ngikhule esontweni laseNazarini. Esontweni laseNazarini uma kulisuku lakho lekudala uya lapha ngembili. Bese nangumvani yasitshela ukuthi na ukhula ufuna kuba yini. Ngikhuleke mina nje I'd say my co-host noma ngithi nje all my peers sikhule sithi want to be pilots. As much as namhla ngihlelana ku-interview as a journalist, I do have a younger sister Nyalo who is, an aspiring pilot. Talk to me about my pilots now. Are they, black? Are they Swazi? And I think that is very important ngoba kuyamniketa nasisi wami lapha ekhaya ihope ukuthi I can be a pilot now ngidatkanza ngisebenza kaRenak. Are they top of the range in vele? I think that's another very important question.
Eswatini is a national carrier. It's our pride.
Yeah.
We are building this legacy for our Swati people. We want these young ones to be inspired to dream big, because all the time people have been working outside Eswatini in foreign airlines, those pilots that we had. So it's an opportunity now for those that are still out there to come back home and fly their own national carrier. And for the aspiring ones, yes, we encourage them to train up, to take up these ambitions, aspirations, dream big, go get that qualification, come back home and fly. We are having a number of pilots, and if I may put it in numbers, I'd say 90% of them are Swatis. We are proud to announce that.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. A few of them, because we are a startup airline, and there are issues of accreditation, or these people flying these aircraft to an so it's not like a car. Just because I drive a BM, I'm able to drive a Mercedes. So for Lama Airlines, for the aircraft, different aircraft, there's some type of rating that they must go through. So because we're a startup and we have glitches, which we are bound to have here and there, we do have experienced pilots from other countries now flying, just so that we take off. But today, to the Swati child, we are saying, take up that challenge, get that qualification, come home and fly the national pride.
Yeah, I think it's very important ukuthi nje sisibavalelisa sisiwakhumbude babukele emakhaya rates enu. I don't want to talk about Cape Town for now. I think sister ukhuluma ngayo Cape Town nasekufika isikhathi sakhe. But let's talk about the rates of lama phases lesenwalaunchile naleni launch akusasa.
Inzaba yema phase 8. These are the minimum, because sometimes people think this is all they will pay. It's subject to terms and conditions, of course, and currency fluctuations here and there. So these are the minimum that we have, which means my lowest phase A4. So between Eswatini and Joburg and Durban, which is more likely the same, we are having EMA specials from 1,300 Emalangeni, one way. So for e-return, you double those fares. But then there's fares that you may find within the range. Like I'm saying, this is our lowest. So umlaleli can come up at this amount of money, then find a ticket at 1.5 and start complaining that we said, these are your fares, why now the 200?
Yeah.
So it's worth mentioning that these are our minimum fares. But as we promised Eswatini and other travelers, we want to be an affordable airline that is a full economy, full service, which we are not a low cost. This Gule Malilena, it's really value for money.
Yeah.
So our Harare flights are from 2,200 minimum on one way. So these are interesting special fares that the general public should really take advantage of.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting in pricing akhona ngiyawucukutana namaswati ukuthi abhukhe ama-flights as soon as they can.
So we're looking forward to flying.
Ubukhile already. Ngiyahamba mina. Ngiyahamba khuleka ngami. I think sengiphuma nje I think it's very important ukuthi usiclarifyele naye ngoba ibengicaba mlonyeni ikakhulu enkundleni yokuxhumana iTwitter. There was this circulating footage yalendiza naseyithelwa ngalamandi lapha. Naseyitawundiza. Everyone has their own perception. Most of the time is a misconception. Kusichazela njengalabo water salute ukuthi kwendiwelani kwendiwana kunjani vele.
Water cannon salute Sfiso in aviation is it's a custom that is done to welcome the newest baby into airport, be it your local or your very first flight, let's say Bitangale maiden or inaugural flight. Whenever it lands, Gubanal that water cannon salute to say, wow, we welcome Eswatini into this specific hub. So it's a custom, it's a beautiful thing that happens that says, we welcome you, we are grateful you are here, so please just soar into the skies and,
Thank you for that clarification. For joining us. Good noma nje sikuvuse ekseni but nje sakhalive ngayo emsuthu siyabonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho.
Siyabonga please.
Bathabile Ngambule, she is the marketing and communications manager ka-Renac. Usichazela ke nga phase 3 laba mlonjako under ema flight operations abo laba lonjako as Renac. So chazile ke ngawo onke angathi ngabe sengingeda ini kulesikhathi sanyalo sibahlole market nasibuya sichubeka nehlelo. Eight minutes after 7. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Njengoba besishilo ke nakuqala lihlelo ukuthi Dr. Kusile Ndlovu loqhamuka at the clinic group will join us. Kuto ukhulumisa indzaba yema abdominal pain. Siyakhumbula ukuthi last week Lungelele spoke to Dr. Maforo ngema foreign bodies in children, and the week before that we actually spoke about asthma in children with Dr. Newton. Lamuhla we talk about abdominal pain with Dr. Kusile Ndlovu. All questions long about now mayelana nalogo, what it is, its common causes and diagnosis. Nalogunye nje longafuna kwati siyakudiscussa nyalo. Dr. A very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming through. Let's talk about abdominal pain. What are the common causes of abdominal pain?
All right. So abdominal pain is a very common symptom most of the people that I think everyone has encountered abdominal pain at some point in their lives. So most of the pains they rarely present to the hospital because it's just self-limiting. All right.
Okay.
So in terms of cause of abdominal pain, we tend to then want to sort of classify the causes based on the following, whether it's an infection. So infections tend to also give you abdominal pain. Let's say food poisoning or infection from any other cause. Your appendix. I'm sure people have at some point spoken about appendix. The appendix or something like that.
Shouldn't eat white bread, all of that. Yeah.
So appendix can also cause pain. And then in females, the key one is the organs like ovaries and the uterus itself. That could be also a source of abdominal pain. So one of the key things that we normally do is to make sure that we ask anyone who's of reproductive age their last menstrual period, because it's key since there's life-threatening disorders that we'll need to rule out so that we save lives in the process. So it's quite a lot.
Yeah, to me, as you're explaining it, it seems like the abdomen is such an area where, you know, a lot can happen. And so how do we take care of our abdomen? Because like you said, almost everyone has had some sort of abdominal pain, but I'm sure there are those ones that are more serious than others. So for instance, as a gym bro, I go to the gym. I do have abdominal pain from, you know, the sit-ups, as you mentioned, and I suppose those are the ones that are not very serious, that can, you know, go away. What are the most serious ones, and how do we know that this is one that I should attend to the clinic group as soon as I can?
All right. So in terms of serious, I think one of the key symptoms is, let's say, when the pain is so severe that you cannot do anything, it's worsening in severity, and it's most of the times it's that type of pain that is of sudden onset and it's severe. Please make sure that you seek help. All right. And then there's the other type of pain. Let's say if you've been involved in an accident and suddenly you get severe pain, it may actually signal that maybe there's internal organ injuries. You definitely need to seek help. And in some cases, when the pain is associated with other symptoms like extreme fever or diarrhea and all those things, please seek help. And then key to also note is that we do have things that can be done for all those conditions. Then we can test so that we can be sure what exactly is the problem.
Right.
Yeah, without assuming.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, you'll correct me here. My general assumption is that ulcers, from what you've described as abdominal pain, I'm looking at the abdomen, ulcers is the most common one. And, you know, I do have a few relatives that have ulcers and a few friends that do have ulcers. It can get tricky. It can get quite serious. And I always see them, some of them take cayenne pepper. And, you know, as I'm from the outside looking in, I'm like, but cayenne pepper is chili. It's hot. Isn't that going to exacerbate? Let's talk about ulcers as the most common, I assume, most common abdominal pain.
Right. Okay, so ulcers, I think every other person on the street, whenever they get some form of pain, they think it's ulcers until proved otherwise. And yet there's all these other organs. By ulcers, I'll start by explaining what ulcers are. Really, we're talking about an erosion of the surface of the stomach or the first part of the intestines, which we call the duodenum. All right. So where it's basically like a slonda. Just an open wound, right? Where if then acid or whatever touches, then you feel pain. So you typically feel it around this particular area, the upper part of the abdomen. All right. And most of the times it goes hand in hand with other symptoms, like you're bloating, full of air, and then you feel like throwing up most of the time, a bit of constipation, and some people also report things like slungulela. You know. So those are some of the things that happen. And commonly, one of the common causes of ulcers is these over-the-counter medications that we normally take, like your grandpa, for instance, after a heavy night of drinking or something, you know, recurrent usage of that can actually give you ulcers because it's got aspirin, a certain class of drug that is commonly implicated in that as well. And then you have your diclofenac and the other types of medications like ibuprofen that people commonly give each other to friends or whoever. Say, okay, in or whatever, then just take this, you'll be fine. So, and yet those things actually have side effects as well when used excessively. Yes, so that's one of the key things on the ulcers. But what I've seen, Okay, cool.
Yeah.
In terms of diagnosis, so there's the gold standard is actually visualizing the ulcer.
Okay.
All right. So where we do endoscopies, so we do them at the clinic where they actually insert a camera. They go inside the stomach to actually look around and survey.
So
the
sorry,
area.
sorry, doctor. How do they do that? Is it inserted through your mouth?
Through the mouth, yes.
A camera through your mouth?
Yes.
How big is this camera? Okay, anyway, keep going. How do you diagnose it?
All right. So it's just it's like a telescope.
Yeah.
But then we normally use it under light sedation.
Okay.
Where then you take it in throughout. It's
Okay.
flexible, so
That
it moves
makes
in nicely. It's not
sense.
just
Yeah.
rigid or whatever.
Yeah.
So the idea is to try and survey and look for any areas of whether what we call erosions or ulcerations and any other coexisting problems like your polyps or whatever.
Yeah.
So then you also look in the you look in the stomach and you look in the first part of the duodenum. All right. So that's the gold standard.
Yeah.
All right. Because we said ulcers are that particular sort of area
Erosion,
where you
yeah.
have Islonza.
Yeah.
So what then happens is most of the times ulcers are diagnosed based on history, where you say, I've been taking these medications for a long time. The pain is around here. It's associated maybe with, let's say, when you sort of fast,
Right.
the pain gets worse. In another type, when you eat something,
Yeah.
the pain gets worse. So those that is a historical sort of type of diagnosis. But then we also have other common causes like what we call H. pylori, which is a bacteria that then we can test for in stool or
Yeah.
a breath test. So that one, once it's there, plus the history, you can then assume and then give what we call triple therapy
Yeah.
for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are they treatable? Like, can I treat them and I'm good forever?
Yes, it depends
Okay.
on the cause. Some are treatable, some are not. And like I said, H. pylori, for instance, it's a bacteria that is treatable using what we call triple therapy.
Yeah, yeah,
But then there's challenges around resistance and recurrence rates. So you may find that it may be quiet for some time and then it comes back again, or it may not go away totally, where you then need to give what we call second line treatment
Yeah.
or third line. If it's due to medication, stoppage of the medication will then sort you out.
Yeah.
As well, yeah.
And I suppose, some of the lifestyles that people lead, they are not really aware that they could be causing themselves ulcers. You've mentioned the issue of drinking and how they, try to, counter that effect of, going for over-the-counter, whatever they do there, and then it exacerbates or causes ulcers. I think such is very important for us to discuss here because, with them getting this kind of information, they can make better decisions, as well as the issue of fasting that you've mentioned. And, some people just, want to hold on to, I have to fast, but, they neglect what it could do to them. Let's talk about, the services that you've just mentioned in terms of, how you diagnose ulcers. Are you able to offer that at the clinic group? Do you have that kind of technology in Eswatini?
Yes, we do have.
Okay.
It's actually quite available in the private sector and even in the public hospitals. So, like at the clinic group, we do have it. Dr. Okelo does it, our resident surgeon. Yes,
Okay.
so he does it at least twice a week.
Is it affordable? How expensive is this? Yeah.
Okay. It's a minimally invasive procedure.
Okay.
Short in terms of duration, so it's quite affordable. It's not. It's not going to cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah,
it's quite affordable.
I know people, every time you mention sedation, they tend to run away. I think you mentioned it requires light sedation, didn't you?
Yes, we normally do it under light sedation, but in some settings, you can usually be given a local anesthetic around the mouth. Then it's just done with you looking, but there's that risk of, gagging with you being aware of what's happening.
Yeah. Interesting. Dr. Kusile, thank you so much for coming to the show today. Hopefully next week you'll come back again to teach us more about health issues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Dr. Kusile Ndlovu from the clinic group just telling us about abdominal pain, its causes, how it can be diagnosed, and how the things that you should be aware of really as a person leading your own life, the kind of lifestyles that you should lead. Let's take a quick ad break. We'll wrap up the show with Lungelele.
I do the most. Watch local TV on the go with the Eswatini TV app for only 20 emalangeni per month. Do the most with Eswatini TV app. Download from Google Play Store or App Store.
We're good together. Everywhere you go, MTN.
All right, everybody, Shailin Simbe Spotlongo, Lomflex and Ismakol Gutini Benati today on the show. Satamoti, Kuning Ilana Ligufunzi, let's start Lanaxasan, Salagat. Have a lovely day.